So you're building out your website, and the settings that you need are your language settings. And this is why. Let me show you right now. Let's go. So you have to set your language settings. It's a point blank period. Like, you don't want to land on your website and your language settings are all messed up. So you want to go into settings, make sure you hit language and region, right? Language and region, and choose your language. Again, that is one of the things that is easily overlooked, even though it tries to automatically set your language for you. If you are an international traveler, if you speak multiple languages, this is a very, very important part. Go ahead and set it up in a way that actually attracts your audience, or even communicates to your main audience. Like, if your main audience is in Mexico, well, you want Spanish. If your main audience is in America, well, you want English, so on and so forth. So you want to get the language that works for your actual business, because this is how the language that your website is going to be displayed, right? So we're going to select English. In the regional format, we're going to do United States English, right? Currency, we're going to set the dollars. Again, if your currency is different, you want to set that differently. All of these different settings, again, these settings are a lot of back end things that will make more sense on the front end when we are actually setting up a shop, when we're actually building out the site. It's built out in the right language. The shop, it's the currency is being converted in the right currency, things like that, right? Time zone, right? Make sure you're in your right time zone. This is also important as far as for scheduling, things like that. I'm just giving you examples of where I've seen it as far as if you're doing bookings or scheduling calls or things like that. Maybe your client is in Dubai and you are in Los Angeles, where there's a time difference. But if you're in a booking app, it's going to automatically calculate like, hey, for you, it's this time. For the person in Dubai, it's this time. But y'all are definitely meeting at the same time, but it's going to automatically calculate that accurately if your settings on your actual time is correct. So it won't, it's not a guessing game. You already know it's set right. Make sure it's locked in right. Now, why this is important? Because there are instances where maybe you travel a lot, maybe you do a lot of traveling, and you if you want to call it your home base is in New York City. If your home base is in New York City, go ahead and set it to New York City, and then essentially pick a time zone. Pick a time zone that you spend the most time and let it be that. So you always know what time zone you're working with, and it automatically adapts. Now, I was kind of going to say, I don't know if it will automatically, if you take a trip to Hawaii, will it automatically recalibrate and recalculate? I don't know. And if you're watching this video on YouTube, or if you're watching this video in the community and you've run into, the situation where, hey, you realize your time is actually automatically calculating even if you move time zones, and that's a good thing, make sure you comment below and let us know how you're experiencing that. Or vice versa, if it's calculating differently, it's like, hey, this is a thing that's kind of off. If it's a bad thing, make sure you comment below and let us know as a community, like, hey, what you think about that, and what was your experience with that? So that being said, hey, we're all open to learning more and sharing more. So that being said, but you want to set your time zone to the time zone that you are most comfortable working in, the most where you spend your most time, period, right? All right, so the account language should be English. Again, if you change your account language, that means all of the, let's say we change it to Spanish, that means all of this stuff from the menus and everything is going to be in Spanish. So don't do it. If you don't speak it, don't do it, right? I'm saying that, I want to emphasize the difference. Account language, again, is going to change all of the stuff that you see. The site language is going to change what the actual, not only what you see, but what the actual viewer sees. So again, if your developer or your team, let's call it your web development team is based in India, right? Or I don't even know the Indian language. India, whatever the language they speak in India, if they're based in India, you might have your account language to whatever the language is in India. But your website your audience might be in America. So your site language might be in English, if that makes sense. Or hopefully that does make sense. So you want to think about that and set it up properly. And again, going back to kind of to the representation of the time zones, you want to choose the time zone that works for your audience. You want to choose the time zone that is the time zone of your audience. So again, a lot of this is back end stuff that it'll calculate correctly when you actually do it on the back end. Because you can even see like measurements. Like that's one of the things across the world. Like, are we talking about pounds? Or are we talking about kilograms? Are we talking about feet? Or are we talking about yards? Are we talking about meters? Or are we talking about yards? I mean, it's kind of like setting up all of these different things. Are we talking about dollars or are we talking about yen? Numbers, so on and so forth. So you get it, right? After you have all of these settings, there is no save buttons. It pretty much just saves it automatically. And you can just go back to settings and, leave off where we started, and we're going to continue on. So boom, there it is. That's how you set up your language and regions. And that's why it's super important for you to set up your language and regions for your website before you even get started with any design, all of the sweet stuff in the front end. You want to handle this back end stuff. Very, very important. So that being said, we're just going to hop right into the next one in the next video. So I'll see you on the next video. If you like this, make sure you like this. Make sure you subscribe so you be part of the next video that we put out. But make sure you build out these settings for your Wix website. And I'll see you all in the next lesson. Let's go.